Hi, I'm Melody Payne from melodypayne.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how I teach beginning keyboard geography to beginning piano students. So in this video you'll see how I teach the different white piano keys, the order that I teach them in, and I'll also explain why. Let's get started. The first thing that I like to do when I'm introducing a beginning piano student to the piano keys in their very first piano lesson is ask if they see a pattern in the black keys. And usually right away they will pick up that there are two black key groups in different places and then there are three. Usually what they do is say 2, 3, 2, 3, and then they always want to know, why is there one black key down here all by itself? What I usually tell them is if the piano kept going even lower, that one would be the top note of a group of three. So the piano stops right here, but if it had kept going, there would be another group of three right here, and 3 and 2 would continue. Then I invite my student to play all the groups of two black keys with these two fingers. So we'll start low. I'm not worried so much about perfect technique at this point. What I'm wanting to do, and then we go from high to low, is help my students feel very successful from the very first activity that they do in their first piano lesson. Then we repeat the process with the threes all the way up and then all the way back down, playing with these three fingers. After we cover our groups of two and our groups of three black keys, the next thing I like to do is use a little rhyme to teach the first piano key that I always teach, which is D. I always teach D first because with this little rhyme, D is always the easiest piano key to find. What I say is, and I don't remember where I learned this, so if anyone has any idea where this little chant originated, please let me know. Hey diddle diddle, the D's in the middle. So since my students are familiar with where two black keys are located and can find them easily, then the next step is what is between the two black keys? The D is in the middle. So then I have my students repeat that. Hey diddle diddle, the D's in the middle, going higher and going lower. Hey diddle diddle, the D's in the middle. Then after the student is comfortable playing all the D's using the hey diddle diddle rhyme, then what I have them do is the first step towards a game that I call speedy keys. And I'll tell you a little bit more about speedy keys in a minute, but what I have them do is play without using the two black keys and without saying the rhyme, all the D's. They are going to play and say every D on the piano keys going higher and lower. D, 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 D. And then going lower. D, 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 D. This solidifies learning the piano key D with different senses. And the more senses you can have a student use while they're learning something, the better they will retain that piece of information. So D is the first piano key that I always teach. The second piano key that I teach is F. And the way I teach the F key is find a group of three black keys, and then I ask if their house has a front door. And they always say, yes, it has a front door. So then I say that if this group of three black keys is a house, then this is the front door. It is before the group of three black keys, so it is the front door. F is the front door. And then F is the front door. So I have them play and say, F is the front door, all the way up and down the piano keys. And notice I'm using my right hand for the higher notes and my left hand for the lower ones. And I do that with my students from the beginning, so they start to get the feel that their right hand usually plays the high sounds and their left hand usually plays the lower sounds. So there are a lot of teaching moments that are going on behind the scenes that my students are completely not aware of at this point. So then after I teach the F's, F is the front door, then I have them play and say F, F, F. All the F's going higher and going lower, just like we did the D's. So we're solidifying the piano key F as much as we can going along. The next piano key that I always teach right after F is B. And these 3 keys are the ones that I usually teach in the very first piano lesson, even in an interview lesson. So I love for my students to feel extremely successful from the very, very start. And this is a very quick and easy way to help them do that. So continuing with the house analogy, if our house has a front door, our house also needs a back door. So B is the back door. B is the back door. B is the back door. And I have them continue that process, going higher and going lower. And then afterwards, I would have them play all the B's and say all the B's, B, 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 etc., going higher and then going lower. After teaching B, the next key that I do is E. And I choose E to follow B because they already know where D is located. We haven't talked about the music alphabet yet, but they do know that in the alphabet that E comes after D. So I asked them, what letter of the alphabet is after D? So they think A, B, C, D, E. E. So then they answer E. Yes, that's correct. And then we take a look at the piano keys. Find a D, I'll ask, and then they'll find a D. So I'll say if an E is after a D in the alphabet, where do you think the piano key E is if D is right here? And they'll think A, B, C, D, E. I lead them by discovery to find where the piano key E is, and that helps motivate them and build their confidence from the very beginning. Then we play all the E's, going up and down. Then the next key I teach is C. And I teach C because now the student knows what comes after D. So it's really easy for them to figure out what comes before D. And with the really young students, let's say ages 5 or 6, they may not still be comfortable with the concept of letters that come before or after each other. So you may have to give them a little help. Or you could use the flashcards and say, here is a D. Here is an E. Now let's say our alphabet letters and figure out what comes before the D. So we might do something like A, B, C, D, and then their faces will light up because they've just figured out that C comes before D. Sorry, you can't see that E very well for my glare, but that's okay. There we go. So now we have C, D, E, and the students can discover for themselves and figure out that C is here on the piano. It's before D. So then we follow our same process, play and say all the C's, going higher and lower. Then the next thing I do is have them, now that we've covered the keys in the C, D, E group, or the group of white keys that surrounds the 2 black keys, I have them play and say C, D, E, C, D, E, all the way up the piano. And then going back down the piano keys, we start reversing it so they can learn to think the music alphabet backwards without even realizing what they're doing. So then we go E, D, C, E, D, C. And it might take them a second to catch on to thinking about it backwards. They might revert C, D, E. So then we just switch it around backwards. E, D, C, E, D, C. Switch to our left hand to go lower all the way down. That activity I probably wouldn't do until a second piano lesson because I have a lot of other things I want to cover in the first lesson, but that is the order that I teach my piano keys in. So I'm going to keep going, show you the rest of the piano keys, and at this point, the only 2 we have left are G and A. So the next one that I teach is G, because G we can teach in the same way that we taught E before. So they'll be familiar with this process that E comes after D. So now we need to figure out what piano key comes after F, or what letter comes after F. So then I might spread my flashcards out, C, D, E, F, and then they might figure out G comes next. Or we might just say the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, and then they would go G. So we know if G comes after F in the alphabet, then the piano key G comes after the piano key F. So we find our F for front door and then play the G. F, G, F, G. And we would do that going higher and lower. The next step is to play and say only the G's. G, 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 going higher and going lower. We can remind the student that the G is in between the first 2 black keys of the 3 black key group. There's another way of teaching these keys, which I'm going to show you in just a second. Then after G, our very last white piano key, and I always make a big deal that this is the very last letter and they don't have to learn any more letters for the white keys, and they always are shocked and surprised by that because there are so many white keys. But then we talk about where the A's are by using the B as our guide. And we talk about what letter in the alphabet is before the B. So they may have to think, And it might take a second to kind of wrap their minds around, oh, A is the first letter before B. So then here's B and here's A. So let's find all of our A's. It's between the last 2 black keys in a 3 black key group. So our A is here. It's right beside the back door. A. And we would play and say all of the A's. So after the students learn the A, now they know all the white keys that surround the group of 3 black keys. So we would do something similar to what we did with C, D, and E. We would play and say F, G, A, B. F, G, A, B, all the way up. And then going lower, we would say B, A, G, F. This can be a little challenging sometimes, so you may want to practice it on one set of white keys. B, A, G, F. B, A, G, F. B, A, G, F. All the way down. Playing and saying all the piano keys is part of my students' weekly assignment for the first few weeks until they are super comfortable with where all the piano keys are located. And then I start giving them an assignment to play a game called Speedy Keys. And Speedy Keys is really easy. I just take all of my music alphabet flashcards, which are available in my shop, by the way, at melodypayne.com/shop. Just search for flashcards. And I mix them all up. And then I will draw a letter, set my timer on my Apple Watch or on my phone, whatever I have handy. I'll set my timer and we start timing my students to see how quickly they can play all of the A's and then all of the F's and then all of the E's and then all of the whatever card I draw next. So when we get through the entire stack, that's their baseline time. And then every day when they practice at home, I want them to try to beat that time. So what I would do, start the watch and A, and if they play one of these 2 keys, that's totally fine. If they skip these 2, that's totally fine as well. Sometimes they're very curious and they want to know what these piano keys are. Sometimes they're not, so I save that for a couple of weeks later. So if they start here, bonus points. And then they play all the A's as fast as they can. And then I have another card ready. Oh, in this case, it's a B. So they play all the B's. And for speedy keys, I only have them go in one direction for a round, but then I'll have them go in the other direction for another round. So all the D's, all the F's, all the E's, all the G's, all the C's, and bonus points if they play this highest C. And then we're back to the A. So I would stop the stopwatch. We would see how fast they played this game. Our goal is to be able to play a round of speedy keys, all 7 letters, playing everyone on the piano in less than 60 seconds. So when they can do that, then they have proven that they are super confident and comfortable with all the piano keys. So then we celebrate, they get a sticker or a small prize or something like that to reward them for their hard work and for being a master at speedy keys. Another way that a lot of teachers like to teach the 3 white keys that surround the 2 black keys is by using the story of the doghouse. This is the doghouse, and the dog lives in the doghouse. So the D piano key is in the doghouse. And once the students play and say all the D's, then if we go right here, there's a cat that likes to hang out around the doghouse, and this cat is a buddy of the dog. So they spend a lot of time together. So that's why the cat is right next to the dog, because they're hanging out. So C for cat, all the C's. And then we have an E, which I like to say this is an eagle who is flying above the doghouse and hanging out with the dog and the cat. Or maybe he's sitting in a tree above the doghouse, and the cat, the dog, and the eagle are all hanging out together. So that helps the students remember E is higher than D. And the dog, oh, I forgot to mention, the dog might be sitting on top of his doghouse, kind of like Snoopy. So that might be a great way to differentiate that the cat is lying on the ground hanging out. The dog is lying on the doghouse, which is a little bit higher. And then the eagle is sitting in a tree above the doghouse or flying above the doghouse. So that also reinforces that letters and piano keys are higher and lower than each other. And as you're playing through them and helping the student listen to them, you're also training the student's ear that the piano keys sound higher and lower than one another. I mentioned a few minutes ago that I would show you another way that you can teach the letters around the 3 black keys. So a lot of people like to say that the 3 black keys are Grandma's house, and that this is the front door, this is Grandma, she is baking an apple pie, and here is the back door. So you walked through Grandma's house. You walked in the front door, you said hi to Grandma, and then you ate a piece of apple pie that she just baked, and it was delicious. It was so good. And then you went out the back door to play in the yard or make up any story that works along with that. So that's another way that you can teach the 4 white keys that surround the group of 3 black keys. When I teach the music alphabet to my young students, I ask them if they know the ABC song. And most of them just jump in and start singing, and it's my favorite. So I sing along with them, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through to next time won't you sing with me. So we'll go through the entire ABC song. And then I tell them that in music and all the piano keys only use 7 letters. And I ask them, let's figure out what 7 letters we use. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it starts over again and over again and over again. So we play A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I always make sure that I teach the music alphabet like this after I teach the individual letters. And my reasoning for that is because often if I do this part first, this is what the students will revert to because this is the first thing I introduce to them. But I want my students to revert to the first thing that I introduce to them, and with that being hey diddle diddle, the D's in the middle. So I want them to be able to find every piano key without having to count from the bottom. So after we've learned all the piano keys and we've worked on speedy keys, then we work through the music alphabet, going higher, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up, and A, B, C. And usually they're surprised that it stops on a C and not a G. And we just talk about that's where the piano stops. So then I ask them, can you say the music alphabet backwards? I mean, make a big deal out of it because it's a challenge and it's fun. So sometimes I'll get them to use the flashcards and put them across the piano. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So they can practice saying G, F, E, D, C, B, A by looking at all the flashcards and kind of memorizing G, F, E, D, C, B, A. G, F, E, D, C, B, A as they're looking at the flashcards. And then we transfer that to playing on the piano. G, F, E, D, C, B, A. So the reason that I saved this for one of the last parts of teaching keyboard geography is because at this point, I hope they'll recognize that this is a G when they're playing and saying G. And I hope they'll recognize that this is an F when they're playing and saying F. So if they get tripped up, G, oh wait, that's not a G, that's a backdoor, that's a B, A. And then G, F, C, wait, that's not a C, that's an E, D, C, B, A. So I hope by the time I get to saying and playing the music alphabet backwards, that it will start to become a self-correcting activity for my young students. So that is how I teach piano keys to all of my young beginners. I also use a very similar method for beginning teens and adults, but I don't go through the whole story and make it super kid-friendly like I do with my younger kids. But what I do is make it more teen appropriate and more adult appropriate by saying something like, The way I teach it to my young children is, hey, diddle, diddle, the D's in the middle. And they love that, and it helps them remember that. I know you don't need that, but I just think it's a great way to teach it to the younger kids. So that's actually a way that I can actually use the same activities to teach them to an adult student without actually using the same activities to teach them to an adult student. See what I mean? So I use those same activities. We use the same flashcards for an adult, and usually I can cover all the piano keys in one lesson with an adult student, and they can pick up on it really, really quickly. So that is how I teach piano keys, the Speedy Keys game that I use with my young students, and the music alphabet going forwards, backwards, higher, lower. Thanks so much for watching, and this is Melody Payne at melodypayne.com.